and just not the type of position. I'll say that middle game might have said it was equal. I don't believe it's equal in speed chess. I thought that was easier to play for white. I think Anish is unlikely to repeat it unless there's a break in the match and he repairs something in that line. But there was just too much risk with that A pawn. And in the end, that won the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a moment there near the end where Nepomniachtchi actually maybe didn't play the most accurate, but this is exactly how he plays. And it is live by the sword, die by the sword. He plays so quick to get that advantage. He doesn't necessarily slow down. He just trusts himself. And, sometimes it really costs him. Anish almost made the comeback there, but ultimately that position is too tough to play and survive in. And Jan just, he was going to make that win happen up 3 minutes. As we're into the next game, Jan has a lead 2-1 in this 5-minute portion. And I think this will be the last game before the break. And you mentioned a break to maybe repair some variations, Eric, but a huge difference between maybe a 2-2 and a 3-1 situation.
Yeah, yeah. You have this white game before the break. The last game, Anish had white, messed up a winning position. He wants to make an impact right here. Playing a Catalan and already a different position. The previous game with white, Anish had a very static Catalan-like position where you get to maneuver the knights.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's a bit more tension. Black is taken on c4. It's a little more loose right now, a little more double-edged. The question is Nepomniachtchi making a change here? Because I definitely don't agree with the last position he had as black. It certainly favored white and Anish's ambitions to just calmly take space, make annoying moves, and play away from Nepomniachtchi's strength. These open positions, sharp tactics. Anish is strong in tactics too, but he's very, very good at these slow technical positions. That's where he's going to find success.
That's right. And I think that the position we've got here is sort of, it's not really defined as one or the other. I would say it's trending a little bit more open, but it has the possibility that it could just, sort of liquidate or transition into a positional game. So it's not quite defined just yet. Offering an exchange here on d6 and not taken by Anish, but Eric, at some expense here. The move knight to b4 prevented by a3, but the light squares are starting to get very weak. Knight a5, bishop c6, knight b3, knight d5, all over the light squares in the position.
This is a fighting position. Black has taken the pawn and now is holding on to it. So this is a guaranteed sharp position. When you play this as white, you're down a pawn in the Catalan. You play for activity. This is no longer going to be a slow, methodical game. White needs to use that space in the middle. In fact, when you have a pawn on e5, you put a knight on e4, you often shift your pieces to the king side because e5 grants you space. Takes away f6 and d6 from black's pieces, gives you space on e4 for pieces, and you expect to see the queen to move over to the king side, because on the queen side, this isn't any better for white. And in the long run, black will play a6, b5, secure that extra pawn, and then look to trade pieces off into an endgame and be like, you know what, that extra pawn is enough for me. So
Yep.
Anish needs to figure out ways to keep the pieces on the board, but for Jan, exactly the kind of position: sharp, imbalanced, forcing Anish to no longer play building up moves, but to actually take the initiative and attack and make things sharp.
Yeah, and if you could just swap every single piece over, like take the rook on b1 and put it on e1, put the queen on c2 to e2 and g4, and play h4, h5. All of these moves contribute, and we see these exact moves being played. It's a big shift to the king side. The h6 pawn will be threatened after queen g4. The black king's going to have to move. White may try to actually play h4, h5, and just fix that pawn on h6. So it's a big transition to a king side attack now.
You have to do it. That's where the attacking potential is, and you have no other pawn breaks. One thing to note: black is not taking on f4 yet. You're wondering why? Well, that knight on d5 is very good. By taking on f4, you open up the g file, and that might help white put pressure on g7.
Exactly.
Bishop
Yeah, I think
c6, exactly. Plant the bishop, maybe put the queen here. Knight b3. Okay, Anish goes for a trade, but this indicates Not really playing for a win. Probably didn't like the position that much. Trying to win back the pawn, even if it transitions to a more equalish endgame. It's very imbalanced right now still. Black would love to induce white to take on d5, then you can take back with e-pawn, and you, again, secure your extra pawn. Your extra pawn is that c4 pawn. You look at the a-pawn, doubled a-pawns. Can that be bad? Yes, but if the c pawn is secure, you can use the double pawns, use the b file, double up, and target b2. That's a weakness. Double pawns aren't always bad. If they can't be targeted, they do open up a file. Over here, already, Nepomniachtchi with a minute and a half extra. Anish wants to cleanly win back that pawn, but right now it's not easy because you have to decide. My bishop's being targeted on g2. I don't want to take here. But if I move my knight to e4 and avoid the exchange, all of a sudden, I'm not winning c4. Black plays rook b8, maybe rook b3, doubles up, and we don't have a plan to win back the pawn. Taking here, I'm expecting the knight to shift to e3 and then play f4. This is a gamble by Giri because black is firmly up a pawn here with b-file activity, but with the knight on e3, I think, first of all, black should maybe move the queen out of the way at some point and play c6. But look for white to play knight e3, f4, use some kingside majority, but this is a all-in attempt. Because material-wise, look, rook b3, these are all the moves we've been looking at. b-file is going to be active. Black is up a pawn. Anish is down a minute and a half. If he just plays passive, we know that Nepomniachtchi feeds off of that, right? He's going to play fast. He's going to play these active moves. He's not under any pressure.
Exactly how to continue.
I thought f4 is going to be played, but maybe it's not in time. Moving the queen is so important. Not only does it put pressure here, but you're ready to play c6. c6 is important. Then you never need to use a piece to defend d5, and your rook on d8 can fully shift to the b file.
Yeah, c6 is a key move.
Look at a4, classy move. Using these double pawns perfectly. You take on b3, I correct my structure. I have ideas in the endgame. The pawns are on dark squares for my bishop. Trades are not good for a Giri. This knight on e3 looks pretty, but c6, solid. Rook b8, this is getting... Well, this is close to objectively lost. The question is, what can Giri do right now to change the course of the game? Because the moves are too easy for Nepo.
Yeah, bishop g5 hits the knight, but again, there's no f4 because the bishop can just take it. All the pressure is on the b pawn. All of this knight e3, f4, f5 stuff that was maybe going to happen it's just not happening anymore. So king h1, desperately trying to get the pawns going, but it feels much too little too late.
No, this isn't even how you push the pawns. And now we see the issue. If the knight goes to e3, there's even positions. The queen can jump into e4. And then you can't even touch your f-pawn. Bishop e7, I don't mind. I thought he might actually play bishop d8, bishop a5, and play c3 to really shatter the queenside pawns. But rook d3, preparing rook b3, trying to get it past d-pawn, I think. This looks very good from Jan. But again, look at this. Extra pawn for black. Pawns on dark squares. Light squares. Dark squared bishop. Black has control over both colors of the board.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily want to play f4 here, but it is possible.
You can trade queens. You can play queen e4 to try to take towards the center and support your passed pawn. Lots of good choices here. I don't see any playable position for Anish. His knight on f1 can't jump into the game because rook endgames are lost. Black will just probably take here in some positions.
Yeah, it's hard to move at all. Knight d2 can be captured. The d pawn is hanging. Taking here supports the d3
rook
pawn.
endgames are lost, and this game won't go on for much longer, I think. You can bring the king in. White wants to bring the king to f4. It's a bit of a race. You get the king to f4, at least you put a bit of pressure on. But I can see black's king getting to d5 in time. And that race should still be good for Nepomniachtchi, but he's looking for something cleaner.
Right.
I'm surprised by that.
I mean, it looks like the king was getting there.
I'm shocked by this move because bringing the king in was completely winning. I want to maintain... This is still good. I just like the idea of my pawns being connected.
But this is what I've been saying about Jan Nepomniachtchi is he'll constantly miss maybe the best move, and he has like 2 minutes and tons of time, right? and
Oh
the
yeah, this
eval
is
bar is going to go up and down, but he gets it done anyway.
it gets it done anyways. It was never drawn. I just had a different way of doing it, but I have to say that is an impressive